Hello, I'm Sergey from ModlForge. In this video, I'll show how to design and run an inbound inventory workflow for warehouse receiving. We will define products and warehouses, create a purchase order, receive goods into the warehouse, and automatically calculate both the quantity in stock and the quantity still to receive. This inbound inventory process is a mirror image of the sales order fulfillment flow, where goods are dispatched from the warehouse instead of received. ModlForge is built around a set of generic building blocks or patterns that can be configured to represent real operational workflows. In this example, we use a pattern where a request is created and then used to drive changes in inventory. The same pattern can be configured for inbound receiving as shown here or for outbound sales order fulfillment. In this walkthrough, we will build an inbound inventory process for electrical supplies. In the designer part of ModlForge, this is where we describe the workflow primarily via drag and drop. I'll add a new group with blueprints for this project. I'll call it electrical supplies. First, I'll create the blueprints for product, unit of measure, and supplier. For the supplier, I'll add a text control and call it name. And I'll do the same for the unit of measure. For the product, I'll add a text control for the name and the model control to contain the unit of measure. I'll name it accordingly and set it up to contain the unit of measure we just added, and to display the unit of measure name. With that saved, I'll map this design to the actual software. I'll click the Sync with App button, which uploads our design to the ModlForge app component. I then go to app.modlforge.com, check the sync status, and once it's finished, reload the page. A new electrical supplies group appears with all the blueprints we designed. First, I'll add our suppliers. I'll call them Supplier A and Supplier B. Then, let's define some units of measure. I'll create piece and meter. Finally, I'll add two products. LED panel light, measured in pieces, and power cable, with meter as the unit of measure. All these objects were created in the app, like products or suppliers, are called models in terms of our software. When I click to list, I can use the models for each blueprint and export them if required. Now that we have the data, let's return to the designer and define the operations that use it. I'll add a new blueprint called Purchase Order. It will contain a date control called Date, a model control to enter the supplier, setup to display the supplier name, and a text control for an internal purchase order code. This blueprint also needs a table for purchased products. For that, we'll create another blueprint to represent each line of the table. I'll call it Purchase Order Line. First, it needs a control to enter the product. I add a model control, set it up so that I can enter a product, and configure it to display the product's name. Next, I'll add a numeric control for the quantity of the purchased product, and name it QTY. I'll set its precision to 2 decimal points to account for fractional values. I'll also add the product's price, again with 2 decimal points of precision to account for cents. Let's also add the total amount for each purchase order line. To do that, I'll add a computed control. Name it total and set its expression to QTY times price, where QTY and price are the names of the corresponding numeric controls. Before saving the blueprint, I'll check Hide in App. I do this because purchase order line is a technical blueprint. It's part of the purchase order blueprint, and I don't want it showing up as a standalone blueprint in the app. After saving the purchase order line blueprint, I return to the purchase order blueprint and add a table control. I'll name it Products and set it up to contain purchase order lines. Finally, to calculate the total cost of all products in a purchase order, I'll add another computed control. Name it total and set its expression to sum products.total with 2 decimal points of precision. Here, products is the name of the table and total is the name of the computed control in purchase order line. If I click Sync with App now, go to the app, wait for the sync to finish, and reload the page, I'll get a new purchase order menu item. Let's create one. I'll select the date, choose the supplier, enter an internal number, and place an order for 50 LED panel lights at $10 each and 100 meters of power cable at $5 per meter. Notice that the total amount is calculated automatically according to the expression we defined in the designer. Now it's time to actually receive the goods and change the quantity in stock accordingly. To do this, I'll return to designer.modlforge.com and create a new blueprint called Goods Receipt. I'll add a date control called Receipt Date and a model control to reference the purchase order. I'll configure it to contain a purchase order model and display its internal number. This blueprint also needs a table for the list of products received. For that, we'll again create a technical blueprint to represent each line of this table. I'll call it Goods Receipt line. First, it needs a control to contain the product from the purchase order. I add a model control, set it up so that I can enter a purchase order line, and configure it to display the product from that line. I also want to show here the ordered quantity from the purchase order line. For that, I'll add a linked control. It will pull the ordered quantity from the purchase order line and display it here. I'll name it QTY ordered and set it to show the QTY from the purchase order line. Next, I'll add a numeric control for the actual quantity received and name it QTY received. I'll also mark this blueprint as hidden in app since it's a table line. Now I return to the Goods Receipt blueprint and add a table for received products. I'll name it Received and select Goods Receipt line as the line blueprint. Until now, we haven't talked about warehouses. Let's introduce this concept. I'll create a new blueprint called Warehouse, give it a text box for the name, and another one for the address. Then I return to the Goods Receipt blueprint and add a model control to contain the warehouse so that we can receive goods into a specific location. I'll name it Warehouse and configure it to display the warehouse name. At this point, we have an app for registering purchase orders and goods receipts, but it's missing the ability to show the quantity in stock and the quantity still to receive. To build this, I'll go to the product blueprint and add a control called formula. I'll name it in stock. Then add another one, called to receive. When configuring a formula, I first need to select the numeric controls that increase or decrease its value. The quantities that increase stock come from goods receipts. So in the increased by list, I select QTY received from the goods receipt line. Next, we need to decide how these quantities are grouped. We want to calculate stock per product and per warehouse. So I click Grouping, add a group for product, and another one for warehouse. The quantity still to receive is calculated as the ordered quantity minus the received quantity. So for the to receive formula in increased by, I select QTY from the purchase order line. And in decreased by, I select QTY received from the goods receipt line. Here I want to group by product, without taking the warehouse into account. So in the grouping section, I select product for both quantities. I click Save, and the design of our app is ready. I click Sync with app, go to the app, wait for the sync to finish, and reload the page. Now goods receipt and warehouse appear in the menu. If I go to the product blueprint, I can see the in stock and to receive values. In stock is empty for now. By default, the values are shown for the selected product only. If I remove the filter, I can see the values for all products that were ordered and not yet fully received. At this point, there are 50 and 100 units to receive, based on the purchase order we created earlier. Now let's finally create warehouses and a goods receipt. I'll go to the warehouse blueprint and create two warehouses. Main warehouse with a fictional address and the secondary one. Next, I'll create a goods receipt. I click New, enter the receipt date, select the purchase order, choose the warehouse, and select the lines from the purchase order. For the LED panel light, I ordered 50 pieces and let's say I received 40. For the power cable, I ordered 100 meters and I'll enter 90 meters as the quantity received. I click Save, and when I return to the product blueprint and check the in stock and to receive values, I can see that we now have 40 and 90 units of the corresponding products in the main warehouse, and the to receive values have been reduced accordingly. This video includes a lot of configuration, but that's not the main idea. The main idea is that operational software often consists of generic blocks or patterns, and this example is centered around a simple pattern: requests drive inventory. We defined a few entities specific to the electrical supplies industry around a pattern that already exists in ModlForge, and within minutes we had a working app.